Welcome to Take Two, a discussion of the times and current events. I'm joined again by Adam Matlack and Mike Pomerantz. Today, our question is, how does COVID-19 shape the presidential race going forward?
Yeah, so I mean, this is a theme that has run through so many of our discussions, and I guess the difference today is we now have taken the Bernie Sanders variable out of it a little bit. There's other discussions to have about what happens with those voters, but I was horrified by what went on with Wisconsin, and so it's like, and by the way, like this is pretty much the opposite of my point from a couple weeks ago with Ohio. Ohio canceled or rescheduled or whatever. And I was like, no, 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 you can't. This is so sacred. You can't take away people's right to vote. And then they didn't take it away. I mean, you could describe it differently, but even the Supreme Court weighed in and said, we're not stopping this election. And then my feeling on that was like, oh my God, how can you make these people vote? This is crazy. They're all going to die. So I am still trying to figure out my own feelings about this, but it is a good illustration of how over just a couple weeks things changed so much so that I could have basically the same person. I mean, I didn't have any giant life-changing events, but basically the same person could have the two opposite reactions. So I think there's so many aspects to this. How do you campaign without without a crowd? I mean, right now Biden's not campaigning, which to me seems strange. I think it seems strange to a lot of people. At the same time, as long as the emergency is going on, Trump gets to campaign for free every night at 5 o'clock, or he doesn't get out there until 6 o'clock, which is really annoying. But whatever. The point is that no one has figured this out yet, but Trump is rolling with it a lot better because he's in a more advantageous position. I think one of the key issues has to be franchise and who's going to get to vote and how safe is it going to be to vote and what alternatives could there be. Before we started recording, I was talking about how we should get anybody who can find any excuse to get an absentee ballot should like work on that now, because the Supreme Court's not going to help you out. And frankly, I don't know what the situation is going to be in November. I don't know how clean or how safe or whatever. But God damn it, I want that election to take place on that day. I may feel differently a few days now, a few weeks from now, and 6 months from now. But right now, I feel like you can't give Trump and the Republicans an opportunity to steal more time in power by saying, well, we've got this emergency. Obviously, we can't vote. But the dynamics for the election, the dynamics for the campaigning, how we actually cast votes, what that's like in different spaces. I mean, there's a ton of work to do and a relatively short amount of time to do it. And I mean, sadly, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Well, I feel like, and I don't have a lot of data to back this up, but I feel like Trump is going to get a pass on the economy. I mean, this is so far-reaching and so stretching, where it's just this crazy thing where people aren't allowed to work, unemployment is all stuff, and they won't be like, oh, it's his fault. It won't be like it's Trump's fault. It's not Trump's fault. I mean, I'm not saying it is or isn't. I mean, I don't think a global pandemic is the president's fault. I wouldn't, if Obama was in office, I wouldn't call it his fault. If Trump's in office like he is now, I don't believe it's his fault either. Now, how it affects the election the most is definitely the turnout. I think turnout's going to be down, and I think that puts Trump in a huge advantage. If you're asking people to vote in a pre-planned way, like through the mail or something like that, I don't think any of the youth will turn out at all. I mean, legitimately, I don't believe it. I mean, it'll be one of the lowest turnouts maybe ever, whereas the old people who are the most likely to vote for Trump, it seems, and then B, the most they have the most to lose when it comes to COVID-19. And so this will not, it doesn't matter. It does not matter how good it gets in the next couple months. COVID-19 is still going to be a threat in November, period. It will. There's no way we're going to eradicate it, and there will still be cases going for the next couple of years, which means that if it's just as potent, means it's just as risky. And that's part of the thing when it comes to this economy thing, is that this isn't going away. We're not going to just magically cure this thing tomorrow. This is going to be a problem 3 months from now, 2 months from now. It's like, oh, stay home now so we can go to. It's still going to be a problem for all these old people, right? And anybody who's questionable, and even people who aren't. It's a problem, and it's something we need to build up antibodies against. We need to probably make a vaccine and all these things, and it vastly affects the debates and how they happen, and the importance of them. I mean, in a lot of ways, Trump's pretty much Democrat in a lot of ways. Like, he's just he's all these like when he ran back in 2016, I was like, this dude's a Democrat. Like, he's a Democrat. Like, I'm looking around, I'm like, this is a Democrat. Like, what do you mean? He's the guy. He's a Democrat. He's been a Democrat his whole life. He's a Democrat now. Now, has he pivoted and said all these things, and he's anti-immigration? Sure, but like in many ways, like there's Ivanka's stuff and all these other things, and I think this COVID-19 stuff and his response to it, people are like, oh, government overreach. Cool, no problem. Take what you need. Save us, state. Save us, dear state. And here we are. And I think as much as this impacts turnout, I think it definitely impacts the debates. And who knows what that looks like.
Well, he'll have to walk his little Donald Trump tightrope of saying smaller government and talking about, look, he's got an incredible record for the right on judges, and he'll be talking tax cuts, and but he loves the centrality. He loves, like, I'm the boss. I take care of everybody. I will make all the decisions, and that's a very democratic way to do things. The idea of the debates is amazing, and I think you're talking about substance, and it's going to be. It's going to be vital. Yeah, because we're not going to get to see those rousing campaign speeches. You can hear the same speech delivered quietly to a few people or right into the camera, but it's just not going to be the same. So when they're together and you can sort of measure them out together, I just think you're absolutely right. The debates are going to be key. And, I've always thought that the Democrats can run anybody they want. And if they can get the turnout, which I think you're right that that's a key component, then they're going to be in great shape, no matter who they have. Because Trump, as much as this is a political gift, this emergency, like, he still has to go out there every day. Sorry. He still has to go out there every day and talk about how great he is, which everybody sees as insecurity and weakness, except him. So he's not helping himself by having that bully pulpit. Biden's not helping himself by being asleep at the wheel and not showing up. And the only time they're going to have to really do something, at least in the near term, is at the debates. And as important as that's been, I think it's going to be even more vital. So I'm looking forward to it. But I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what my thing is for Trump. He's going to sit there and be able to, I'm in power. I'm in charge. I'm doing all these safeguards. You're on the sidelines. You're wanting this job. You were never in this job. You never had this job anyhow. You were sitting back there not doing anything. Obama did all those things. You did nothing. And moreover, he's going to sit there and be like, oh, and by the way, anytime he criticizes him, that's un-American. He needs to be very careful about attacking Trump or attacking the situation, and I'm not sure that Biden has the ability to walk that tightrope in a debate situation, because that's a tough one for anybody to do. To be aggressive and to be down, and to downplay anything that's, it's just, look, people are dying. This is very serious, but I'm way better than you, and these people would be alive if I was in charge, and it's easy to say and really tough to not come off like a giant, inconsiderate person. And so as he pushes the message, I'm a great guy, he's still going to have to teeter that with, I've got some teeth, because Trump will not let up. I mean, the famous, and I think genuinely it was that debate that won him the presidency against Hillary, when he, it was the one where he was talking about the graphics with the very graphic image of how you can, right before the baby's born, you can pull it out and crush its skull, and that's legal. And Hillary had no, and he pulled that out, and she was just like, whatever. And then of course, I think it was the same debate. She's wearing that white thing, and he's like, because you'd be in jail. And everybody's like, oh, everybody's like, and Biden's not capable of any of that. Biden is not capable of taking that clap back. And it's going to be super interesting to see the two opposing sides be like, especially with the COVID thing, where it's like, we need to be very careful and not insult people, because if you're sick, and this is likely going to affect. I don't know how many people know somebody who has it, but the moment you find somebody who's in your family or a close friend who has it, this personally affects you. And so to think that this won't personally affect every voter is really ridiculous. It's going to affect most people. And so I think that plays to Trump, and I think Biden has a tough messaging there, regardless.
All right. That's all the time we have today. Thanks for your thoughts. If you enjoyed our discussion, please be sure to like and subscribe below, and join us for another edition of Take Two.